People are wondering, why don't we just nuke the oil well? Should we do that? Joining us now is Christopher Brownfield, former nuclear submarine officer and Iraqi war veteran with extensive experience in strategic energy problems. We also have Matthew Simmons, founder of the Ocean Energy Institute. Thanks to both of you for joining us. Matt, I want to start with you because to the average person, this idea that we've seen in a lot of papers, we heard a lot of people talking about it, it sounds crazy even though it seems to be getting some traction. Tell us the science behind it. Does it actually make some sense?
Well, it makes a lot of sense if it turns out that there's no casing left in the wellbore, which is because without any casing, that's the only way that the relief wells actually have a chance of working. And there is now sufficient scientific evidence from what we're being told in dribs and drabs that the government finally did some, I think, subsea sonar imaging at the end of last week about the actual blowout preventer, and coming up through 5 stories of steel with 2 shafts of the casing, which really indicates that must have come out at such tremendous pressures. So if there's no casing in the well, there is no other known way to actually put the well out other than to put an explosive device down. Now, since it's 18,000 feet under the seafloor, you're talking about a very low-level explosive device, and the reason you need nuclear is it's the fusion created that melts the rock into glass and entombs the wellbore. So, when I grew up in Utah, for almost 20 years after the test bomb treaty, we were doing underground hydrogen bomb testing about 100 miles north of Las Vegas, a mile underground, and it didn't even create tremors in Las Vegas.
All right, so let me take this over to Chris. Chris, we talked about a week ago you were against using a nuclear bomb. You preferred conventional demolition. You heard Matt Simmons give an analysis. Do you agree or disagree with Matt?
Well, I think Mr. Simmons' analysis is correct, technically. I really can't punch a hole in the argument that this would work. And I've agreed with that since May 16th when I first published an article about this. But the problem is that there's a national security implication that Mr. Simmons hasn't talked about. If the United States were to use a nuclear weapon for a peaceful purpose, then other countries would also demand to have nuclear weapons for peaceful purposes. And we don't need Iran to make that argument tomorrow that, hey, we should have nukes just in case we have a runaway oil well.
Right. Not only that, I mean, there's that argument. And, Matt, I think people are also concerned about the fallout. I mean, is there a health danger as well?
It's not the radiation's not a big deal compared to the ecological damage that this spill is causing. We have a lot of scientific data about the amount of radioactivity released from a nuclear detonation, and in this case, it would be detonated underground if they were to do that. The radioactivity would be largely contained.
All right, Chris, my friend, though, when you say the radiation is not a big deal,
not compared to the oil.
Is it a small deal? I mean, if radiation is any deal, that would seem to me to be a big deal.
Well, I mean, it's not something that you should dismiss, but there have been people like the Muscovite Greenpeace director who said that this would be like bringing Chernobyl to America, and that's flat out false. It's not even close to the same kind of
Matt, is there a chance the relief well is just going to work and we don't need to talk about either of these explosives?
Unless there miraculously is casing left in the wellbore, it doesn't have a chance of working. And what's really amazing, from the best scientific data that's being done, it's spewing 120,000 barrels a day of toxic oil into the basement of the Gulf of Mexico. There's some scientists that are now thinking that we probably actually lost the auction for 40% of the Gulf of Mexico.
Well, Chris, I can't believe this. Is Matt right? I mean, these relief wells, we've been waiting for these to come online all this time, this relief well, and it's not going to work?
It's a sham.
Well, I mean, I hope the relief wells work, but hope is not a plan of action. Oh. We need to have a backup plan, and I think Mr. Simmons and I would both agree that Mr. Obama needs to buy himself an option and make preparations for demolishing the well.
We got to leave it there. Thanks to both of you for joining us.